Hello and welcome to Fueling Around with me, Jason Plato, and my favourite comedy put-down, it's Dave Vitty.
Fueling Around is powered by adrianflux. As the UK's largest specialist insurance broker, adrianflux will tailor a quote to your exact needs and help save you money on your car, your bike or even your home insurance.
Don't forget to press subscribe on YouTube so that you never miss an episode, or press the follow button on Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts from. So Dave, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you. I feel like we've achieved something because this is the final episode of the calendar year. We're staring down the barrel of Christmas and we're all set for the festive period. Have you started your Christmas shopping yet?
Well, funny enough, I've managed to do a few bits this morning, but I've just been playing petrol station roulette. And I've got back. I've got back, right. I've got 8 miles on the car, and I've forgotten that actually it's more than 8 miles to the petrol station.
Right.
Anyway.
It's a certain sense of jeopardy, isn't it, when you sort of see that, especially when you get into single figures, because then you think, well, you're completely in the lap of the gods. You can be a bit heavy-footed and go up a hill, and then suddenly 8 miles turns into 2 miles. Yeah, absolutely.
Or even worse than that, you get the hyphen. You don't even get a zero; you just get the hyphen.
I've never seen the hyphen, but you know what? About enough anxiety from us. I think we need to get on to introducing our very special guest at the moment. I think he is Mr. Christmas. I think you need to introduce him.
Well, our guest today is a gentleman who will certainly up the energy levels on this show by, what? How much do you think, Dave? 300-400%?
Something like that. Yeah, definitely.
He's a stand-up comedian, a podcaster, a TV presenter, a writer, and also an actor. He's another one of those blokes, which we sometimes have on. You know, the one that's just bloody good at everything.
Annoying, aren't they?
They're indeed. It is, of course, Mr. Russell Kane. Hey, how are you, Russell?
Hey, good. Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
It's a pleasure, Russell. Thank you for joining us. Jason mentioned your energy levels in the intro, which is something that you've become famous for. Or synonymous, I think, is maybe the word for. Surely, though, that must be a necessity when you're on the sort of schedule that you're currently on with your latest tour. For those that weren't emailed a copy of the press release from your agent this week, can you tell us a little about the madness that you find yourself in at the minute?
Well, yeah, I suppose high energy can describe two things. It can either describe the initial thrust, the 0 to 3.1 for 3.1 seconds, 0 to 60, as the Aston Martin DBX 707 would do, for example.
Oh, he knows his stuff, Dave, doesn't he?
Or 0.5 of a second faster than that Ferrari thing, which doesn't even have 5 seats. But also it can describe energy that is sustained over time, where you don't get tired. Think more my touring car, the Ford Ranger that I've adapted to store all my equipment in. So I need to have both types of energy, which is obviously not sustainable. So it's a miracle that I'm not dead. So the energy you're talking about is when I burst on stage. I mean, I've got this fitness band on my arm. I probably burn 500 to 800 calories in the 70 to 80 minutes I'm on stage. It's a physical assault on the body. The reason I'm unusually fit for my age is not because I like the gym or enjoy being fit. It's because I absolutely have to be fit like a boxer or a runner, except I don't get to retire at 35 like a boxer or a runner or a footballer. I have to carry on going.
Hey, so Russell, you know you've got that fitness thing on your arm. Does that give you your heart rate as well?
Everything, yeah. Heart rate, calories burned.
So you know when you go on stage, where does your heart rate go to?
So my resting heart rate is about anywhere between sort of 55 and 60, so athlete level. But while my music is playing, it jumps to 100 and 110, and while I'm on stage, it goes anywhere between a sort of 100 and 160, so sort of zone 2, zone 3.
It's amazing, isn't it? Amazing. Like we've done that, you know, when I've been racing in the car, and sometimes it spikes. It goes from anywhere between, you know, just before the start of a race, it could be sat there at say 90, 95 because I'm ready to go, and then literally race starts and it can go to 180 within a second. And I'm not doing any physical exercise. It's mental, isn't it?
I'm under a cardiologist and getting checked every year because with people like us, they do not yet know whether our body processes that as good stress or bad stress. So I feel like I'm enjoying it. I'm like going toe to toe like a boxer that's about to beat the shit out of someone. It feels good. But can the heart tell that? You know, you're sat still with your heart at 160. That's fight or flight heart. In theory, that could lead to calcium deposits because, of course, excess cortisol and stress is meant for a short term, like running from a lion or, you know, getting away from someone who wants to hurt you.
Well, do you know what? They've done this analysis on F1 driver, and some of them have gone into over 200. I mean, that's
Really?
mental.
What's the heart attack and cardio health of F1 drivers who haven't gone obese? I mean, who have sort of stayed fit? Have they got unhealthy hearts? Are the heart attack prevalent?
I would say it's okay.
Well, you'd notice if your mates are disappearing.
Yeah, I would say it's okay. I don't know any driver that's had a heart attack.
I think we're getting a free heart workout because my heart's, my whole body is much younger than my biological age. But that's because I wouldn't be able to do what I'm about to do tonight, for example. Got 1,000 people coming. If I wasn't sort of at least 31, 32 biologically.
It's at this moment I feel like I need to morph into Swiss Tony because surely the two are related. So anyway, you mentioned about all your gigs and stuff. I mean, I've just been having a look at your tour schedule. And by our reckoning, and bearing in mind Dave's maths, it ain't so good.
Awful.
It looks to me that you've done about 60 gigs so far this year, and they've got another 60 booked in for 2025. How on earth do you get around, get it in your head, all that travelling? And bearing in mind, you're putting your heart through so much stress.
Obviously, that's just what you're looking at on the tour poster. But in the last week, it doesn't show stuff like this, film, podcast, radio, TV.
Yeah,
and this is silly season. So last week I did 3 corporate gigs as well as my 3. Corporate gig is where you go up. Your listeners might not know what it is. It's where you go up, you do a bit of comedy, and then you have to hand out awards to drunk people in a suit. You'd have done loads of them if you're a driver. But obviously, with the reason it's big bucks for comedians is we can offer something that the presenters or sports people can't offer. We can offer like 15, 20 minutes to stand up first, followed by awards. So it's fucking super duper money. Well, not go and live on Guernsey and retire money, for the F1 listeners. But so I'm having to do, for example, last Thursday I woke up, I had a filmed job at 11:30, I had a filmed job at 3:30, I was on stage for a corporate at 6 p.m. doing a keynote speech, limo bike, another corporate, limo bike, tour date. That's one day. So it doesn't tell the story of how screwed I'm, but that's why I take long holidays. So I finish on December the 10th or something, and I won't resurface till January the 17th.
Joking aside, though, Russell, with all of that, is that it's actually quite a serious business in so much as, you're trying to balance out a mental tour schedule. You've also got the book, you've got the podcast, you've got the corporate dues and whatever. It's quite a tricky line to tread, isn't it? Without sort of getting too serious about it, in so much as you could very easily get to the point where you just kind of go, I can't do this anymore. Like you could literally burn out unless you genuinely protect yourself.
That's once a day I normally say that sentence out loud. Then I have a coffee and I'm all right. To be honest, the real challenge isn't that. I have been born sort of wired weird. I've got an unusual amount of creative energy and I love that's the hack that we have to remember in these jobs. We love what we do. So it's, even though I'm doing lots of it, it's like, do you want to do more of your hobby? Do you want to go and do some more puzzles? Do you want to go more orienteering? That's like saying, do you want to do more stand-up to me? It's what I love. That said, the main challenge for me is the stage of life I'm at. My daughter's 9. She really needs me. There's so much magic. So I'm based right in the middle of the country in Cheshire, meaning most nights, not tonight, but most nights I will try and come home. Even if I fall asleep at 2:30 in the morning, if it means I can just do the school run. Like today, for example, my tour manager's gone ahead of me to set up the gig tonight, and I'm going to see my daughter for 15 minutes. That might seem like a lot of hassle and extra energy for me, but for her, she'll remember I was there. I got out of bed at 8:04. She leaves at 8:05. Have a great day at school. Collapsed, and then sort myself out today, and then I'll do that. So that's more the trouble with the balance. So far as your original question, the travel. What I only stay over when it goes beyond 3.5 hours. If it's 3.5 hours there, I will come home. 3.5 hours back, always.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you say, you're at that point where you're being stretched because you've got a daughter who's at that age where she really wants to see you and needs to see you and stuff. But you're also thinking, well, hang on, I've got to make this money while it's there, because with the greatest respect, you might not be having all of these opportunities further on, and so it's a tough one, isn't it?
Hey, it's a bit better with comedians in that if you can find a way to do it, people do quite like to see a miserable old man ranting on stage. If you can find that Ken Dodd, Billy Connolly, George Carlin, Joan Rivers, if you can find that track, there is no retirement age for a comic other than death or when your body gives out. That's where I'm at a massive advantage from these footballers. I feel so sorry for these lads. You know, they get to 29, 30, you've got another 70 years potentially ahead.
In terms of, you know, when you're in the middle of the show, Russell, obviously you presumably you write the show for that particular tour. Does it then evolve on a sort of nightly and weekly basis in terms of what you get back? So I guess almost a bit like Chinese Whispers, when you look at the material that you might have done last night or last week, it must vary quite a lot from what you set off on this journey back in January, February, no?
If I went on stage tonight, and this is like one of the last nights of the tour, and just did the routines and the bits I plan to do, it would probably be about 50 minutes in length if I just went through it. But I'm on stage for 80 minutes. So that's how much extra shit goes on a night. The first 15 to 20 minutes are normally improvised, sometimes 25. The stronger the cultural identity of the place, the more the stereotypes I can piss around with, the longer the improvisation at the beginning. So Welsh gigs are easier, Scottish gigs are easier, Leeds, anywhere with a strong identity. I've just come back from Jersey the other week. Jersey, I always think of the Channel Islands when I think of F1 drivers. I don't know why, because they're always bloody over there visiting their money. And it was easy in Jersey. There's so many funny things. For example, like they've got the Ferrari showroom, even though the speed limit on the island's 40 miles an hour. There's fucking 5 minutes in that.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that weird? So I imagine that each show, because of that extra improv part of it, each show takes on a feel of its own, even though there'll be like a backbone or a spine to the show.
Correct. Yeah. And there is a message to the show, apart from it being my usual high energy, laugh till you hurt. But there's 3 touchstones, lessons I teach in this show, which come from cliches, but I teach them so that they mean something. And the first one is the power of failure and learning from all sports people know the failure and its power, something that's been lost. Sort of mocking Gen Z there, who everyone's a winner at sports day, no one's allowed to experience loss, and then they got fucking anxiety when they're 18. What a surprise. And then I also teach like sucking the marrow and the importance from every moment, and not going, I wish I was the number 3 comedian, I'm only the number 4, not living in that mindset. And the other one is changing what you can change. So those 3 philosophical around those are all kinds of humour. Some of it dick jokes, some of it deep, some of it you've got to think about, some of it's coarse, crass. It's an attack with every comedic weapon known to man.
I love that.
Well, do you know what? When you've gone through that much sort of, it's real sort of mental stimulation. I mean, obviously, you're creating a lot of that, but also you're sort of absorbing a lot of that from the audience as well. When you come home, as you say, and you come home so that you can do the school run the next day with your daughter and whatnot, and you might be coming in and it's 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. Can you just switch off? I mean, how do you can just go bang, that's it's done.
And that's the advantage of, I mean, I can't, now Lee Evans retired, I can't think of anyone like me energy-wise. My material is obviously very different to Lee. But that's the only person I can think of was like me. And so what happens is, if you're performing at my age, at that level, there is nothing left to stay awake with.
I like it.
You could find out your bank account's been cleared.
Yeah.
You would still fall asleep like a baby in the womb.
Spent, you're done.
You're done. But when I was new, it was a nightmare, because you have to do 2 or 3 gigs a night to pay the bills, because you're earning maybe 150, 200, and I couldn't. I just had to earn that 150 quid and go home. And that's the same whether it's a 5-minute set or a 75-minute set. I'm a B-sting comedian. Once that sting is deployed, I'm dead for the day. I have to regenerate.
Is that right? What a brilliant expression. See, I'm also intrigued, because a bit, let's say I've been racing all weekend. I struggle to wind down on a Sunday night when I get home, and the only thing that would help me was a bit of the sauce.
Because you physically, I know your heart rate's going up, but if you think about it, you probably haven't physically burnt as many calories as me, because my axis is literally running 18.
You're probably right, but I would lose 3 kilos over a race weekend, which is like a stone. But that's just sweat. Not rather.
I'm speculating. Yeah, I'm speculating that if you burn from nervous,
I'm not a highly trained athlete. Is that what you're suggesting?
No, I think I'm burning both types of fuel, nervous and physical.
But do you ever have a drink after when you get home, and just to knock the edge off.
I have one beer when I get off stage, 5% lager, but a bottle, 275 ml. But listen, when I go to Ibiza, I drink neat vodka out of a pint glass. But I'm not like vegan non-drinker. I like getting off my tits, right? But because of the nature of what I'm doing, because it's very, very close to boxing, is the closest thing I can give you that it's close to. A boxer couldn't have more than 2 beers; he would feel it in the ring. So I physically can't drink more than 1 beer, but I have lots of good food, and
Well, in terms of dates that you've got left, I mean, it would take me ages to read them all out. So, I'm basically going to say to our viewers and our listeners, get yourself on Russell's website, russellkane.co.uk, and have a look and see what's out there, left for dates. There's bound to be something near you on his hyperactive tour. So now then, Russell, let's talk cars.
Yeah, let's do it.
What are your earliest memories of the motor car? Did it start in the 70s with your mum and dad's wagon? How did it all begin? Because you love cars, yeah?
I've got a mixed relationship with cars. In that I used to, my rebellion where I come from, which is council estate. My dad's was a knuckle dragging, BNP voting, Poppadom in one hand, BNP manifesto in the other. I'll tell you what's wrong with this country. More mint sauce, please, Abdul. There's a hyper masculine. He was a sheet metal worker, hyper old school male. Yeah. And because my rebellion came, I'm going to learn dancing, or I'm going to read books, or anything to wind him up. It made me hate all sport, and for a while made me not want to think about cars on purpose, and to not be into that side of life, because I knew that's motors and parking and diesel and I was like, fuck off. So it took me a while. My first car was a functional purchase, which was a Vauxhall Nova Swing, which meant it had a sunroof. But because of how obsessed my dad was with motors, I did of course learn all this stuff. And my dad's favourite car I ever owned, was a Mini Cooper. Oh. Yeah, a Mini. Oh. It was a John. It had John in front of it or something. It was a limited edition.
John Cooper works.
It used to be called a John Cooper. It was the green one, and a real purchase. The Capri was the other one. The Ford Capri used to show me pictures of it. Yeah. The first car I remember him driving was the Ford Granada BPU 787T 78 reg. Drove it in. Then we had the Sierra as well.
So he's a Ford man then, very very much a Ford man, like Dave actually.
Yeah. Because of the cheapness of parts, but his dream car was a Mercedes. One day, boy, I will have. And he was obsessed with these 2 things: diesel, the fuel of man, and it had to be automatic. Oh, yeah. Automatic, just to cruise, boy. The only place my dad had ever been, bless him, council estate, just a wasted life, had all these dreams, came to nothing because he come from a shithole. But he did go to America for 3 years when his sister emigrated, so he fell in love with big wagons, automatic wagons that cruised. That's where his love of the automatic came from. And he got it, a cream 190E. He gave it a name, Christine, after the horror film. Right. The cream 190E. You weren't allowed to look at it. You had to take your shoes off before you got in this thing. It got more love and attention than I got. And after that, he got the black newer one as well. So he was obsessed with his diesel automatic Merc, isn't it? And I just wished he'd survived to see me. He died before I even started comedy. He died quite young, really. And I wished, because the first thing I would have done would buy him the type of car I knew he really wanted. The car's beyond a Merc. A Merc's lovely, but you know what I'm talking about, because those things mattered to him. Things like that, I'll take them and leave them. Don't get me wrong, I'll go to the Maldives in a house on stilts, but if it stopped tomorrow, I wouldn't be like my dad. My dad was miserable because he didn't have those things. We should live in Epping. Look at Paul. He's got his own glass company. His son drives a Ferrari. It was that all the time. Never could focus on the wealth he had. Yeah. Which was his sons, his Merc. Yes, we lived in a council street, but we bought our own house. Yeah. We bought it. It's now a 4-bedroom swimming pool in the garden that he dug with a hired digger. So we swam all summer in a chlorinated, filtered pool. Couldn't see it. Thought we were chavs, and died miserable and jealous. It's just, what a waste. Yeah. And so that's a lot of my association with cars and masculinity, is that sort of tyre kicking. Any car I chose, what about that one, Dad? He would go, "You die in that. It'll kill you." Like he knew best. This one, boy, and would touch a tyre. This is the fucking one. But of course, the greater the distance between his death, 2003, and me becoming more of a man, the more I've allowed myself to think, well, actually, I do like boxing. I like fighting. I do. Why am I denying it? I do like watching MMA. I do like watching two geezers beat the shit out of each other. But I suppress that because I associate it with a sort of toxic traits of my old man. But you can be feminist and modern and still want to watch Tyson Fury beat the shit out of Jake Paul, which I would love to see.
Yeah.
So you can be into those. And slowly but surely, I've allowed myself to fall back in love with cars. And my car is my 1986 BMW 5 Series, 59,000 miles from new, original fucking paintwork.
Nice.
Manual, just fucking beautiful car. The only thing I've done is lowered it and put a steel exhaust on it, obviously. And the whole boot is taken up by a subwoofer speaker.
Oh, mate, do you know what? That just brings back so many happy memories, eh, Dave?
That was it. It was the type of car I couldn't afford at a certain age. And so I love they're called sort of modern classics. I'd love a Cosworth. I'd love an XR3i in mint condition. I'd love a Capri if the steering wasn't so shit. I probably would have got one of those. But the BMW 5 Series, rather than an antique 3 Series, they just put those little executive touches on in the 80s. So it's 1986, but I've got electric windows. I've retrofitted aircon because I'm a boiling hot mentalist. It took me 6 months to source the parts and put actual...
Is that right?
And 80s aircon with like a mechanic that worked on it cost thousands. Like I had more money than sense. I just had to pay out, and it sits there, and I probably do 1,000 miles a year in it.
But you love it.
Less.
You love it.
Do you know what? I want to talk more about this in a second. Just before I do, quick bit of mid-show housekeeping. If you haven't already, please press subscribe on YouTube so that you never miss an episode, or press the follow button on Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your podcast from. So, Russell, I think like what you're saying is really interesting because we're a very similar age. I sort of noticed. I think we're about a year apart. So all your touch points in terms of what is important to you. We often have this conversation, don't we, Jason, in so much as you can see supercars and hypercars going down the high street and you go, oh, there's a Ferrari, there's a Lambo, and they're not really that special anymore. But you see something like a Mark II Escort, or you see a Cortina Estate, or you see, I had a Capri. You know, my first car was a Cortina, my second car was a Capri. Actually, tell a lie, the first car was actually a Fiesta, Popular Plus, then the Cortina.
And your
then
first
the Capri.
magazine.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, but these are the things that are kind of special. So I'm totally with you in terms of like what floats your boat as a man of our sort of certain age.
Yeah, and so my wife is like just mental successful. She's on her third business now. So I'm allowed, because with what I do for a living, and where I come from and the things I talk about, I have to be slightly careful about what I put online and how I'm seen. I mean, you wouldn't see Rob Beckett or Mickey Flanagan, even though they probably got 2 Lambos in an underground container. You would never see it. They probably wouldn't come on here and talk about it because you think people are going, right, so you're fake. I'm not fake. That is my culture. I've just made a bit of money later in life. But my wife, and I'm insured on it, so I get to ponce around in it when no one's looking. She's got brand new, it's storm purple. You need to Google the colour. Aston Martin DBX 707. It's fucking beautiful.
707.
It's the fastest. One of the fastest cars in the Aston. So you look at you go into Aston Martin and look at the Vantage and all of those. Yeah. It's faster than that. It's faster than fucking any of them. It's faster than the
Jaguar. Vantage passed me by.
And Ferrari's made everyone wait for this because obviously we've got a family, so if we're going to have a posh car like that, we have to have extra seats in the back. And Ferrari's made everyone wait. Oh, we'll never do an SUV. Well, we are beyond it. It will never happen. But this is not an SUV, so they just like bellends and put 4 seats in it instead of 5. And after all that time, it's 0 to 60 in 3.6. Still slower than the DBX 707.
It's a proper
3.1 motorbike speed. Motorbike speeds in a family car. Yeah, it's terrifying. You fucking skid up your shorts in Sport Plus.
Is this what goes to Sainsbury's or Waitrose?
Yeah, this is Lindsay's daily driver. Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm insured on it. And I get to like ponce about in a sports car. But if anyone goes, here, what about your values? I can go, it's not mine. My car's green. My car's green. Yes, it's not a hybrid or electric because I'm a big into green and everything. No, it's so old that it's greener than an electric car. Oh, yeah. Because once a car passes a certain time, your carbon imprint and everything becomes so green by hanging onto it and not contributing to all the waste.
We've had that discussion before, haven't we, Dave? And you're dead right. Yeah. Classic cars, it doesn't get any better.
No, there's nothing more green than actually keeping existing hardware on the road.
Yeah,
I mean, the worst thing you can possibly do is stick it all in a landfill and then go and buy brand new electric cars.
Yeah, and it's the same. I try to do the same with my clothes. Like this is made in Blackburn. This top, my joggers were made in Scotland. So my socks were made in Wales. So I've got a lot of. I try to buy local clothes. There's not many. So I'm a big fan of Patrick Grant, he does a Great British Sewing Bee, and he's just got an advert running today saying "F Black Friday," in that we shouldn't be into this rampant consumerism and all of that. But that said, maybe we will maintain this Aston Martin. I did when Lindsay was shopping. I did look at that Ferrari one, but it's like what are you actually getting for that extra money? You're getting less.
Oh, is this the pura sangue?
Per sangue, yeah. And the Lamborghini Urus looks like it's driven out of Doctor Who, and it sounds like urine.
I hate those.
Yeah, it drives well, but it's too Lambo, isn't it? I mean, I don't like Lambos really. They're too out in your face.
If you're going to drive a ultra posh car, at least Aston Martin feels a bit English and reserved and a bit of heritage and shit like that.
A couple more questions before we need to let you go. First one being this: of all the cars you've ever owned in your time, Mr. Russell Kane, you need to pick one and one only and stick with it for the rest of your life. Imagine the repo man's come round and you'll add one more. Which one do you stick with and why?
Well, it's probably the one I have stuck with for so long, this 1986 Beamer. If I could be guaranteed that it wouldn't... Obviously, every time you take it in for a service, something's worn with age. But I just think it's so classic and timeless. But if it had to be a modern car that I could rely on... So there used to be this car called the Volkswagen. I like Volkswagens, right? The Volkswagen Up.
Yes.
It might still exist. It's tiny. And just for 1 year, they made a GTI version of it. As my friend Simon Brodkin used to say, you can get from B&Q to World of Leather in 2.1 seconds. I think what I would do is I would spec up to every spec, even the bags and the dog blanket, some sort of practical Volkswagen, because they just go on and on and on. Another Volkswagen I had, which is one of my favourite drives, and I toured in it, was an original VW camper van, which had a bed in the back of it and everything. But I mean, it was hard getting it insured because the guy that had owned it had put the maximum engine you could put in it without everything overheating and it melting. I mean, it was like the van would go at that angle. It was stunning, but the upkeep and the costs, and it was so impractical. But my God, that was great. But I think I would go with, just to be practical, as much as I love my Beamer, some super spec'd, quite boring to the outside, but a bit of nasty going on the inside VW. My mate Mickey had a smart car which he chipped, and he had put Bentley wheels on it. It was terrifying. Yeah. It was honestly, you'd need an Imodium before you got in it.
Do you know you're talking about the VW Up there, right? And this sounds like a gag, but it isn't. I was walking down our street the other day, and there was one there, and they do an electric one, right? And I walked past, and I kind of thought, this, just looking at the badge on the back, it's like, I thought, this is the most Yorkshire car in the world, because it says it's a VW E-Up.
Yeah. Oh, mate,
honestly, you have a look now. It's the VW E-Up.
E-Up.
Yeah. I just remember I'd had such a good year that year, and I went into the showroom and bought it cash, this VW out the geezer, and just fucking 10 grand. It was 10 grand. I paid for it and drove out and everything, and I love it. I've got a weird mixture of tastes, me. I do like the finer things in life. You'll see me on holiday in a posh watch, maybe, and I don't really like designer clothes, but I love like traveling posh on a plane and going to posh places. I love being in Aston Martin, but I've also got this sort of utilitarian attitude to something. So for example, I can't bear it when someone books me into a 5-star hotel when I'm working on tour. I like a fucking holiday in. I know what's going on. I know where the aircon is. I know it's going to be blackout. I don't want some flash mirror and I can't see getting ready where everyone's trying to be 5-star. I can be like that with my day-to-day car as well. I want something that's got a bit about it but is workmanlike and I can blend in. And that's who I am as a person as well. When you open the hood, you're like, I wasn't expecting that. But in the crowd, there I am, just a VW.
So maybe this is the perfect next question for you, Russell.
Yeah.
Me and Dave always think that music and cars go perfectly together. So just imagine your fantasy drive. It can be anything. Where are you? Where are you going? What you're listening to? And most importantly, what you're driving.
I do that fantasy drive every year, except I'm normally in the passenger seat because I'm in no fit state to be behind the wheel, and that is driving around Ibiza. Just going you get so excited. You get up at 11 a.m. You're going to a day party. Your tummy's all fizzy. Still now, I've been twice this year. I never stopped going since I was 18. I don't think I'll ever stop going, and just that feeling of getting in and the house music's playing and you know you're all going to a day party and everyone's being silly. Some people are pissed already, and it's all kicking off. That feeling to be doing that. And one year, because I was working for Ibiza Rocks doing a gig, they provided a driver to drive me around. And he had a spec'd up Porsche Cayenne. Is that right? Yeah. So I know they're sort of 84 Porsches for every Aston Martin, FYI. And I know they are a bit like people that can almost afford a supercar type car. There's a bit snobby around them, but to be in a flash car in Ibiza, being chauffeured around with a few mates, all everyone off their noggin, and the beats going, and it's still there at 3 a.m. waiting for us. Those drives, man. And I'm doing my dream drive.
Can't argue with that, can you, Dave?
You can't argue with that at all. And do you know what? I think on that perfect Balearic image, I think you need to take us out, Mr. Plato.
Oh, man, I don't think I can read it because I'm in that Balearic way. Don't even know what day of the week it is. So anyway, that's it for this week's Fueling Around, powered by AdrianFlux. As the UK's largest specialist insurance broker, AdrianFlux will tailor a quote to your exact needs, and it'll help you save money on your car, your bike, or even your home insurance. Dave, as always, a big thank you, but a huge thanks to our special guest this week, the one and only Mr. Energy, Mr. Russell Kane. Thanks, Russell.
Thank you. I used all of my valves during this.
You did indeed. Thank you, Russell. Very happy Christmas to you and yours. Don't forget to press subscribe on YouTube so that you never miss an episode of this. And don't forget to book your tickets to see Russell on tour in 2025. Check the website, russellkane.co.uk, for all the details on that and everything else. The book, the podcast, all that kind of stuff is all on the website.
Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas, everyone, and a Happy New Year. We'll see you next time. Ta-da!